come out of executive session.
So moved.
Commissioner Fawcett, give us a Commissioner Nix, a second. All right. Thank you. We're out of executive session. Sorry for the delay, folks. Opening presentation. Dawson County 4-H, is that the BB team?
Yes, sir.
Where y'all shooting at? Is that at the high school?
No, sir, this is the 4-H DD team.
Uh-huh.
We shoot it with private residents. So. Matt, you want to come up and talk?
We got the team?
Yeah, we got the team too.
Good.
Come on up. You want to bring the kids up and introduce them real quick.
Yeah, introduce them, and we'll do the proclamation.
Alright, this is Wyatt Nelson, he's a ninth grader at the high school. Jonathan Drake's an eighth grader at junior high. Carson Branson's an eighth grader at junior high. Oh dear. James Graves is a fifth grader at Robinson. Ella Grace is a sixth grader at the middle school. Madeline is a ninth grader at the junior high. And then Shelby is a seventh grader this year at the middle school. Our coaches on the end there with the cap on, John Lee. And our new coach, soon to be, he got training in a couple of weeks, is Travis Robb. And I'm Samantha Graves, I coach him also, but I'm also the 4-H program assistant. And we shoot throughout the year, throughout the state. We shoot a little bit everywhere. So we practice at the high school at the ROTC building. But we practice, or we shoot, compete all across the state. But this past summer, we actually qualified for the Daisy BB Nationals. And so we traveled to Rogers, Arkansas, 11.5-hour drive, to shoot at the Nationals. So it's the first time Dawson County's been represented at the Nationals out there. We stayed for a week, 6 days, something like that. And they did really good. None of them got nervous. All of them kept their scores. Some of them improved a little bit on their scores while they were out there. We didn't win any big awards out there, but they did have a good time and did really good. So we're super proud of them.
Good job. Put my hand. So we got a proclamation to read. Dawson County Board of Commissioners recognition of Dawson County 4-H BB team proclamation. Whereas Dawson County 4-H BB team consists of young who live and attend schools in Dawson County, whereas they work diligently throughout the fall, winter, spring, and prepare themselves for competition. Whereas they represent Dawson County at the Daisy BB National Competition held in Rogers, Arkansas in July 2019. They were the first ever Dawson County 4-H shooting sport team representing the county at a national shooting sports competition. They placed 37th in the field, with highly experienced teams from all over the United States. Whereas the Dawson County Board of Commissioners commend the Dawson County 4-H DB team for its talent, dedication, hard work. Congratulations to the team on this accomplishment. Whereas the Dawson County Board of Commissioners does hereby bestow its best wishes for continued success in all the future endeavors to these young people, and know that the future of 4-H shooting sports in Dawson County is very bright. Therefore, the Dawson County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim November 21st, 2019 as Dawson County 4-H BB Team Day. Congratulations. We'll give y'all the copy of this. Okay, what I'm gonna let, you don't wanna hold it right here in the front?
One, two, three. Thank you very much.
Got some fingers.
Mom, got it fast.
Good job. Good job. Good job. first, huh?
Yeah, that one here.
Fireman before it's over with.
You want to do it again? Let's go back. Go ahead here. Don't do roll call.
Roll call?
Are you ready for it?
We're ready. And we're all here, Billy's off training, so, again, sorry for the delay, and want to welcome everybody here to the November 21st voting session. And we had Rose Hall have a presentation. And please stand for a brief invocation and pledge, please. Dear God, thank you for this day, a wonderful day. Thank you for these young people, the presentation. Thank you for the coaches and the parents that stand behind these young people. Be with us as we make decisions for citizens of Dawson County and also for our employees. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any announcements?
We are having our employee Thanksgiving lunch tomorrow, which will be a good thing we do with all the employees.
Yeah. We'll have a good turnout for that. Any other? Approval of the minutes for the work session held on November the 7th. Commissioner Nix. Have a second.
Second.
Commissioner Possum, please vote. Those are approved. We have the minutes of the voting session held November the 7th, 2019. Have a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Commissioner Gaines.
Second.
Second. Commissioner Possum, please vote. Those are approved. I need a motion to approve the agenda with the items. Let's see what items we got. That's 5, so 6. Do what?
3 through 7 is my show.
Yeah, 3 through 7 on the work session. To accept K-9 grant, to accept the trauma grant, to accept the 50/50 grant from Forestry Service, to the grant for the transit for senior center, and amendment 2 of the senior service director on through it on the Legacy Link. So I have a motion on those items I added to it.
I move that we approve the agenda with corrections.
Commissioner Funk?
Not corrections, additions.
Additions.
Mhm.
Second.
Second. Commissioner Nix, please vote. Those approved. Anybody sign up for public comment?
No, sir.
No public comment. Then we have the zoning. County attorney, were you gonna handle those zonings, please, ma'am?
I think typically Jameson.
Jameson will, okay. You're up.
Commissioner Satterfield, Commissioners. First rezoning of the night will be ZA 1916. The applicant is Ridgeline Land Planning, presented by Holt Ressinger. Their request is to change the zoning from commercial highway business to residential multifamily and commercial highway business, and for the purpose of putting townhome communities with an amenity area. The current zoning for both of these properties are commercial highway business. Both properties are located on the corner of Lumpkin Campground and Highway 53, northeast corner. Tax parcels 113-011 and 113-092. It was heard before the Planning Commission earlier this week on November 19th. 140 town home development is proposed to be there. It is in accordance to our comprehensive plan that this may be residential multifamily as the available, is one of the available zoning districts under the commercial highway business in our future land use plan. There are currently 9 stipulations in which I will go through on this property as when it was rezoned to this commercial highway business in 2007. There are other 2 adjoining properties that have recently been rezoned to residential multifamily in this proximity as shown in our staff report. I'm going to just quickly go through these, the current existing conditions. Number 1 was the GDOT approval is required for any access proposed to Highway 53. Within this rezoning, there are trying to leave the corner of 53 and Lumpkin Campground to CHB, which is currently zoned, and rezone the 23 acres behind it. It's just on Lumpkin Campground. So that stipulation really won't be affected by this rezoning request. Number 2 is prior to further development, a detailed development plan must be submitted and approved by the Planning Commission and Board of Commissioners. Stipulation 3, a DRI review may be necessary upon completion of a detailed development plan. This DRI has been submitted to the GMRC and is currently still under review, and we have not received that back yet. Number 4 is a tree density requirement calculation must be based on the entire tract of development less the trees preserved in the stream bank buffers. Stipulation 5, a 20 feet of right-of-way on Lumpkin Campground is to be taken 400 feet to be dedicated to Dawson County for future improvements as offered by the applicant. This one is a very important stipulation to consider and was recommended by the engineering department in their recommendation as well. As you know, we are looking to do improvements along Lumpkin Campground in this area. Stipulation 6, a copy of agreement for use of the adjoining detention pond is required. Number 7, stormwater detention to include water quality and encourage infiltration to include pervious area to be set at 10%. Number 8, all requirements of Dawson County Tree Ordinance and Georgia 400 guidelines are to be strictly adhered to. And these will be applied to if and when we choose to update our 400 guidelines as well. Number 9, the applicant has requested to remove. Number 9, it states that inner parcels to connect to the north of the development. So interparcel connectivity is extremely important in the 400 corridor. The parcel to the north is already rezoned to residential multifamily for another townhome community that is 55 and up, and they have not had the requirement to connect to it. So they essentially removing that stipulation would be appropriate since there's nothing to connect it to. There's also
quick question.
Sure.
So there's nothing to connect to the north, but to the east, there's a proposed emergency access connection, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Between those 2 parcels, there's also 25, 30 foot of embankment that would have to be taken into consideration, which just makes it a lot more difficult. The applicant is also proposing a stipulation that the minimum heated floor area shall be at least 1,400 square feet. Additionally, the maximum number of units shall be 140 to cap that off, and the amenity area shall be provided to include a cabana, pool, and playground. Like I said, Tuesday this went before Planning Commission. The vote was 3-2 in favor of approving this application. They did include their own stipulations, 4 to be precise. 1, the main entrance to the north aligned commercial businesses allow for a plus intersection. So that's based on the engineering recommendation of the plus intersection, meaning that the intersection from the entrance exit from this development be lined up with Fort Dearborn. right there for a plus intersection. Number two, the final recommendation of the following, recommendations following a traffic impact study. So, if and when this traffic impact study is required, which more than likely it will be, there will be additional recommendations based on that, and that's usually at the time that we sit down for plan review, if it gets to that point. Number three, the developer shall address ZA's 07-08 stipulation number 5 to dedicate 20 feet of additional right-of-way for future expansion. And number 4, the project shall meet current Dawson County stormwater requirements during the construction phase. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions for James?
When will this DRI be received?
So generally, DRIs, we submit to them as soon as we can and we get all the information. 30 days is more than adequate for the DRI to be.
So when will our 30 days be up, do you know?
If you're looking for a recommendation on when to, it would be probably the December 19th hearing back before the Board of Commissioners. There would be as adequate a time to receive that information.
Does the DRI include the traffic study?
Traffic study is not required for DRI. The traffic study is only required once it meets a certain threshold, and this development didn't meet that threshold right off the bat, but that is something that we obviously can require on the development phase.
I might have a question later. I'll reserve it till after the hearing. Are we going into public hearing? We're gonna go through the public
Yeah,
hearing
we'll have
process.
to.
Yeah.
Any other questions, James? All right, before we go into public hearing, let me just review the zoning rules, which Jamison just made the presentation. We'll hear from the applicant. We'll open the hearing up, hear from those that are in favor, hear from those that are opposed. Each person wishing to speak will be allotted 3 minutes. Anyone that speaks will need to sign in and give us your name and address. And anyone that's donated $250 or more to any candidate sitting on the board needs to fill out the form, which I have the forms. With that, we'll open up with hearing from the applicant.
You need a motion to open?
No, sorry.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Holt Persinger with Ridge Land Planning, 196 Bel Air Court, Winder, Georgia. Jameson covered pretty much everything as far as the particulars and details. Just go over again. We are requesting a rezone of 23.57 of the portion of the tract to RMF for 140 fee simple townhomes. And we are below the maximum allowed density of 6 units an acre at 5.93 units. I would like to point to the staff report again that Jameson pointed to, that according to the 2018 comprehensive plan and accompanying future land use map, this property is designated as commercial highway business, and that is an allowable zoning districts within that commercial highway business district include RMF, COI, CHB, CIR, and MUB. So the RMF and CHB that we're requesting are allowable within the comprehensive land use plan. And also that the partial to the north and the partial to the east have already been rezoned to RMF. I think one was in 2013 and one was, I believe, this year. My client purchased this property in 2013. I think it was rezoned to CHB in 2007. So from 2007 to now, this property's been marketed as a commercial piece of property with interest or no contract. So we feel that the rezoning to the residential use would be a much more marketable zoning for the property, seeing as the adjacent properties that were rezoned to RMF have been purchased and are being developed right now. And then also all those conditions that Jameson went over, we've agreed to. Some of those were some that we recommended or have recommended adjustment to on existing conditions that are on the property. So we're fully in acceptance of those conditions. That's all I really have. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I think y'all have a copy of a conceptual, looking at site plan and a elevation, proposed, townhome, so I'd be happy to answer any questions with that.
Any questions to that?
What's the green space percentage?
It's 25%.
That's our minimum requirement, is that right?
Correct.
Jameson?
That's correct. So,
Any other questions? We might have some more for you.
I'll reserve my time. to get there.
Okay, now we'll hear from, who are in favor of the application. Anybody here in favor? In favor? We'll close that part. Anybody here to oppose the application? Please give us your name and address, please.
My name's Renee Duran, and my address is 2602 Sweetwater Juneau Road.
You're right.
I did, I read
Okay.
it already.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Commissioner. I have some, I wonder if I could hand you this.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Good evening, Commissioners. I'm asking you to postpone the vote on RA 1916 pursuant to the rules and regulations of the state of Georgia. Rule 110-12-3, local government responsibilities states, the local government must follow the applicable procedures identified under DRI communication procedures detailed in chapter 110-12-3. When it appears that the proposed development may meet or exceed the applicable DRI thresholds. In the case of rezoning application 1916, the proposed 140 townhomes exceed the DRI threshold of 125 residential units. According to the Department of Community Affairs website, the DRI application was submitted on November 15th and is currently under review. Rule 10-12-3 states, the host local government may proceed with its development review process during the DRI process, provided that it does not take final official action approving a project until the DRI process is complete and the local government has had adequate time to consider the Regional Commission's DRI report. Examples of local development review activities that may take place during the DRI process include, but are not limited to, preliminary staff administrative functions, project evaluation, community participation, meetings and hearings, site visits, and planning commission meetings to discuss, but not to vote on, the proposed local action that triggered the DRI process. Failure of the local government to wait until the DRI process is completed before taking final action will result in a mandatory meeting with Regional Commission for the first occurrence. The second occurrence can result in the suspension of our qualified local government status for a period of up to 1 year. Loss of that status will disqualify a county for certain grants and funding opportunities. As you know, our Planning Commission voted on this rezoning application on Tuesday, which means we're already out of compliance. Please consider taking the necessary steps to comply with the rules and regulations of the state of Georgia. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else oppose the application?
You get my name in the pot over here? Okay. I was a little bit late leaving 53 and 400 this morning. And I had to run by and get a jug of milk, without milk. But on my way home, I noticed the traffic backed up between 8:15 and 8:30 in the morning in front of the gun shop. So we all go ahead and approve more apartments. You approved everything coming across the board. You got 790 something apartments that's waiting to come through there. And I pray to God you don't take some of our citizens and children and grandchildren, my grandkids, because of what you're doing. So you go ahead and zone the apartments, pack them in there, because we ain't got room for it. We're gonna have roads for it, we don't have money to build the roads.
Anyone else speak opposed?
Okay, my name is Beth Martin, I live at 586 Bryce Way. This sounds like more speculative zoning. They're trying to sell the land and they can't sell it commercially, so they're gonna change it. And they don't really have anything ready for it, so, on top of the fact, we don't have the infrastructure to support what we've already zoned this year and are in the process of building. And I feel that the current citizens are gonna lose out when we overzone, and whether it's speculative or not, it's all gonna come to a head, and we're just all gonna lose out in the process and become like the next county south. Thank you.
Anyone else? Speaking opposed? Opposition? Anyone else? Seeing none, we're gonna close the, zone here at this time. Get a motion from the board. Do y'all need to hear back from the,
I have a question. David, I know that we're working on Lumpkin Campground. One of the valid points brought up is infrastructure, and we know that Lumpkin Campground has some pretty serious constraints on it as we exist today, and we continue to have that. We have, my understanding, we finalized phase 1 of that study, which takes you to the county line south up to 53, I believe. Does it go that far up?
No, sir, Commissioner, Dawson Forest to 53.
Dawson Forest, okay. What is the timeline that we have when we get to the point where we're looking seriously at this particular piece and that we're talking about tonight is 53 Lumpkin Campground north to 400 and Harmony Church Road?
I don't have an answer for you. Don't have a timeline for the northern section. We asked our consultant to look at those 3 phases. The second phase being the phase that we completed between 53 and Dawson Forest being the most critical at this time because of the traffic constraints that are there. We have had numerous conversations with DOT about this intersection at State Route 53 and Lumpkin Campground, but I don't have a timeline of when that, when we would do that. Obviously, the most critical is south of 53.
Okay. Thank you.
any other questions, staff or applicant?
Well, I've heard conflicting information. I thought I heard Jameson say this didn't exceed the DRI threshold. And then Ms. Duran said, what's the answer?
So we have submitted, it does meet the requirements for a DRI, absolutely. And it just did not exceed the DRI threshold to require us to do a traffic study.
The DRI does, and to Mr. Irvin's point, we need to have that before we can take action on it, so.
Absolutely, absolutely. But the planning commission is just a recommending board.
Yeah.
And I spoke to the GMRC, Adam Gazelle today. The recommending body is not an official capacity to make a vote on zoning.
So, I mean, really the appropriate thing to do is postpone this
Yes, ma'am.
till we get the, are we ready to make a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I make a motion. Oh,
Why is it even in front of us?
I don't know.
Because we had a public hearing scheduled and we have to give the public an opportunity to speak their minds.
It was advertised and
That's
Very
right,
good
Commissioner
process.
Nix, the regulations even provide and contemplate that you will have a simultaneous process so that it doesn't delay the applicant any more than necessary. So as soon as the DRA report comes back, then it can come back to this board. And it had been noticed for a public hearing as well, and so that followed through
That's
with
when we
that.
had to do it.
Exactly, so now we're in a place that when we get the DRI report, we can bring it back to this board and you can make a final decision.
So we got a motion to table.
Yeah, to postpone it until we receive this information.
We got a motion to postpone the table from Commissioner Foster.
And that, I guess that would be till the next, at least a minimum of 30 days, the next voting
See, I don't know what
session.
time limit to put on it. I don't see how
I'm
we.
comfortable by saying the 19th. I spoke to the GMRC. Obviously, the next vote is in 2 weeks. And I just want, and we probably could get it back by then. I just want to make sure we have ample time to advertise for the.
December the 19th?
We'll need time to review it too, once we get it back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fair.
Got a motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gaines. Please vote. That motion is carried to table. Dennis, you're up again. Second.
Thank you, Commissioner. Sorry, I probably shouldn't sit down. ZA 1918, their Bentley Corners LLC is requesting to rezone 1.679 acres located at 336 Elliott Family Parkway from residential agriculture to RSR for the purpose to divide the parcel and build a residence. The tax parcel is 070009. There is not a lot more to say other than that. It is up on Elliott Family Parkway that would share a driveway with Country Home Kennels. There on the right, it's almost as soon as you turn onto it. It is not currently in compliance with the comprehensive plan. The subject property is identified as rural residential, and the analysis for most of the departments come back with no comments necessary because one residence it wouldn't be on water or sewer and they have to do septic.
Any questions for James?
If I may add one more thing, sorry I didn't write this down because I got this shortly before this meeting, but the applicant has requested to table this rezoning request. And with the applicant is here, can give you a better explanation.
Does he want to speak to it? Does he?
He will.
Well, he'll be next here.
If you have any questions, I mean,
James.
he'll
Oh, okay.
speak.
Any other questions, James? Is the applicant here? Step up, please. What's your name and address?
Good evening, board. Steve Small, 3330 Cedars Farm Court, La Ferga, Georgia. I'll write it up.
Okay, already on
Yes, we were trying to ask the board, postpone or table our application if it's possible, based on your, you guys can have a meeting on December 19th, I believe so, for the zoning map meeting, when you guys can make a decision on that, and we thought it may help us in the rezoning. If it's not gonna work out, I guess we'll buy another piece of property to be in compliance.
Any questions for the applicant?
No, after. Jameson.
Thank you.
Can I?
Well, James, go ahead.
Am I out of order?
No, ma'am, go ahead.
Again?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this in the neck of the woods where we require 5 acres?
Yes, ma'am. Residential agriculture requires 5 acres in order to subdivide property.
And this is not 5 acres, is it? 1.67?
No, ma'am. That's why they are looking to rezone this from residential agriculture to residential sub-rural, which would allow for an acre and a half.
I don't know that what we're gonna vote on is gonna help this situation. Angie, do you, I don't think what we're going, probably need to investigate it some more.
Well,
Okay.
I have not been involved directly with this request to my knowledge, correct? I don't think I know anything about this. Make sure I haven't forgotten that I know, but no, I don't think I do. So there's a request for postponement, so maybe that'd be appropriate if we need to look into this further.
I guess a question for the county attorney. Do we still have to go, since we advertised, do we need to go through the process, then have a
Yes.
vote on postponement?
I would still,
Public
I would
hearing.
conduct the
It's a
public
public
hearing
hearing,
because
right.
it's been advertised, and then we can make a final decision. But, if there's any questions about, I think Commissioner Fawcett's questions about what could be accomplished with this vote, that might be an appropriate postponement for some legal advice.
Okay.
But I would absolutely conduct the public hearing.
Okay, we're gonna open up this time the zone, same conditions with the previous one. Like I said, we've heard from the planning department, director, the applicant, and this time we're gonna open it up. Anyone here speak in favor of the application? In favor of the application? Anyone here speak in favor? Okay, we'll close that part. Anybody here opposing the application, speaking opposing the application? Oppose the application? No, we'll close that part. Do we need to hear any more from James?
I don't, not tonight.
What's the motion board?
We're going, I did the,
Make a
I don't
motion
wanna be
to-
long.
To table, ZA 19-18, till the, what do we say, December?
He said that, I don't know if will we be ready then? Angie,
We
will
need
we?
If we don't have our answers by then for what we need, then we'll
Okay.
make
Postpone again.
an educated decision, we'll table it again.
Okay.
Got a motion to postpone, possibly December the 19th, Commissioner Gaines? Second. Commissioner Nix, please vote. That's passed to table it. At this time, we'll get into the new business. First is consideration special events, business license, T&T fireworks. We heard that the last work session. Any other further information, James? Did we ever hear, I guess the question that was brought up, and I know we've asked this every year, can they get somebody in the county to receive the money?
They have reached out. I do want to address another question that was brought up during the work session, and that was if any of the money actually came back to the fire department itself. Honestly, I didn't know that answer then, but I have the numbers for the last 3 years that we have gotten back. 2017, we received back $32.72. 2018 was $175.13. In 2019, so far this year, we've received back $156.83. Not a whole lot, but you asked about the taxes. It goes to the state first, and then it obviously trickles to
State gets that far first.
Absolutely.
Well, at least we buy some fire hats for the kids.
Danny, don't
Thank you.
spend that all at one point.
Thank you. Go.
Stretch it out.
Have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Fawcett?
Second.
Second, Mr. Gaines. Please vote. That's approved, 3-1. Next one, consider the RFP 354-19 consultant service for the 53 overlay district and 404 corridor update. Y'all heard that presentation? more from Jameson on that?
Refresh my memory.
Absolutely. Faucet, well, we were requested by the board for the long-range planning committee to look at the 53 corridor. And they came up with a plan, and we presented it to the board. Along with that request, I believe it was the board's decision to try to put that out for RFP as well as the 400 corridor. And before you have what is the request for proposal.
Correct me, I think it's a 2-year process, so our expenditures are spread out over a period of 2 years. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
This is-
Over a series of 2 years, which you're gonna have, the reason why it's so long is because we're gonna have several, public involving,
Right.
up front, and then they're gonna write on the back end, which we will be, involved with them the entire way. The B and C studio was what we requested that accept the proposal.
Did we just get one, is that the one we just got one
Yeah.
bid? That's what I thought. See, that just makes me
I
nervous
believe they're
wreck.
the same ones that did it the first time.
Yeah.
Same with the first one.
And this money's gonna come from general fund
Yeah.
to pay for it.
Now, well, since it's a 2-year spread of expenditures, do we put it, I mean, do we make the amendment to next year's budget for the whole amount, or do we do 50% then?
In order to issue the purchase order, if you decide to move forward with this contract, you would have to do the contract and the PO for the full
for the
amount.
full amount?
So then whatever the remainder is would carry forward to
Okay.
2021, I guess, or 2020, whichever year,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
But the anticipation is that it's not a full expenditure in next year, because I believe the answer was it's 24 months program. Okay.
Thanks, sir. Any other questions?
It might be noted that we did receive an email from the long-range planning chairman, Terry Tregeser, in support of this. I think several of y'all. So.
Have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Gaines, second by Commissioner Wicks. Please vote. And that's approved. Next item, consideration of 2020 local maintenance and improvement grant and approval request. I guess who did that presentation last week? That was
Yeah.
David.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, last week I presented our annual, this is a standard procedure every year. This time of year, we present our annual local maintenance improvement grant. That's through DOT. That is a matching grant. Our portion of the matching funds is in-kind services. You'll recall, we're partnering with the city of Dawsonville on Perimeter Road. There was some discussions, and Commissioner Gaines, you had asked about some school traffic at the AM peak time. I have had some additional discussions with the school, and we'll continue, and the sheriff's office, and we'll continue to work towards a solution for that. However, it is noted that it is not included in this LMIG application. There is a number of other roads that we will be completing as part of that application, other than Perimeter Roads, Goswick Drive, Joseph Lane, Sundown Subdivision, which includes the Sundown Drive, Perimeter Road, which I've mentioned, and then North Sea-Tick. There's a varying different scopes that are there, and that's approximately $586,000 worth of road improvements that we'll do. The state has a logarithm that, based on population and number of road miles, of how that's calculated. So we'll submit that if it's the board's pleasure to.
Thank you, Nick.
Keep school in those conversations, obviously, too, with school traffic. I'm not sure you mentioned school.
We have, yes.
Okay, you did, okay.
Tony Wooten has been in part of those conversations. So
That intersection, we just gotta figure something out.
it's the AM school peak traffic.
I'm sitting in it every day.
Just stand up, instead of sitting in your truck, just stand up. You won't be sitting in the traffic, you'll be standing in the traffic. Will that help?
Yeah, Yeah.
Shorter line now.
Do some exercises.
A motion,
Motion to approve.
Yeah.
motion, Commissioner Davis to approve.
Second.
Second. Commissioner Fawcett, please vote. That's approved. Next item, consideration of request additional funding for the increase in attorney fees in the juvenile court. We've heard that presentation. I think it started last year when now their attorneys are provided for both parents and kids, and if they have multiple kids, it's multiple attorneys.
Unfunded mandate.
Unfunded mandate from the state. What was the total amount of that?
63,000.
63,000.
It will come from general fund.
Come from general fund. Have a motion,
Motion to approve. No
Commissioner Dix.
choice.
Second.
Commissioner Fawcett, please vote. And that's approved. Next, we have consideration of board appointments, Development Board, Jerry Allen replacing Joy Hannon for January 2020 through December 2023. Have a motion.
Motion to approve Jerry Allen and Development Authority.
Commissioner Nix.
Second.
Commissioner Gaines, second, please vote. And then the second one, I found out we can't, sorry. We were, so do we have to vote on this since it was already?
Do you have another appointment to make?
No, ma'am,
Not at this time.
I think it's just
Can,
taken off.
can we table it until we have another
Yeah,
appointment?
you know, I would recommend doing that because I don't think you want to vote that appears that we declined to appoint,
No.
Mr.
Tony,
Tony.
Tony wanted declination.
And thank you for stepping up, because it's
Maybe we ought to change our rules that you serve on 2 boards.
Well.
not our rules.
Make an exception. Oh, it's not our rule? Well, it's just
General
overruled.
Assembly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
General Assembly.
So if we make a motion to table it until we determine an alternate to the applicant.
I think that would be more appropriate than to have what appears to be a no vote on the record. But Commissioner Nix, it is a statute that provides that no person shall hold 2 county offices.
Can I have a motion to table it till we receive another application?
So moved.
Commissioner Dix,
Second.
Commissioner Gaines, please vote. And we got the items that we amended the agenda. First one, we've got the presentation by the chief for emergency management for Homeland Security K-9 grant. Timeline is on that, so he needs to get that application in, signed and in. We have a motion on that?
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Nix,
Second.
second by Commissioner Fawcett, please vote. And that's approved. Second one is the request to set the trauma grant. I think that was $3,630, Chief. What, is that the one? They get equipment on the rescue trucks and on the fire trucks. No match?
$710 times 3.
Correct, $3,630.75.
Yep. We have a motion to accept that money.
So moved.
Commissioner Fawcett,
Second.
Mr. Gaines, please vote. That's approved for. The next one is the Georgia Forestry Commission Volunteer Fire Assistance 50/50 grant. Chief advised he has that in his budget to match us. They only match grant. The rest of them were free money. So this is a match grant to buy equipment, and he has the other to match it, whatever they get.
Motion to approve.
Question?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, this is the motion is to apply for the grant.
Apply
not
for it.
accept the
Excuse me.
grant officially.
Apply for it.
Motion to approve him to apply for that grant.
Commissioner Nixon,
Second.
second by Commissioner Fossil, please vote. And that is approved. The next item is the presentation Don gave, Senior Center Director, for the Georgia Department of Transportation Federal Transit. That was the grant for, pay for the rides, correct? That's another one time frame we already did. The one she gets every year. Have a motion?
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Commissioner Gaines, second by Commissioner Fawcett, please vote. The last one is, was presented by Don, is a Legacy Link contract addendum number 2. She said it was going down a little bit, I think we lost $1,041 or something, but it could go up next amendment. Have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Fawcett,
Second.
second by Mr. Gaines, please vote. And that's approved. No public comment, and we are adjourned. Thank y'all for coming.